Hey guys, I was coming on today because something just happened to me and I thought I would share it right away before the epiphany kind of fades. Um, I just experienced something in my life that gave me a very well rounded lesson and helped me understand better this conundrum I've been having about duality. And I've been seeing things where people have been asking about why things have to exist the way they do. Like, why do people have to be shitty? You know, like in a world where things can be so good, we ask ourselves, or, why are there bad people? Why are there these things? And the altercation I got into right now, I had a full circle situation happen, and I wanted to get on to what that was, but I have to give a preface of where the whole circle ended up. So, um, I was at the park with my dog. I was walking the dog and throwing the ball. I was in the tennis court, and right beside the tennis court, there's uh, a kids park, like with a fenced off kids park. It's quite nice. It's got the slides, the swings, everything. And all I saw was this guy who is maybe in his 30s, etc., just sitting there, loud, obnoxious on his earbuds, talking on the phone, drinking a Max Ice, which is like a 40 can that we have here in Canada. And he was smoking like the biggest spliff ever. Not ever, but like big one. And he's just in this little kid park. And I was kicking the ball for my dog, and I kept seeing like families approaching, but being intimidated by this guy, so they were just leaving. And it was getting on my nerves because I was like, of all the places, like, I know it's legal to smoke weed in Canada, but I was like, why do you have to sit here? Type of thing. And then this like older boy, maybe like 9, wanted to play. So he went to the swings and he put on his headphones so he wouldn't have to hear this guy like belligerently yelling out, F bomb this, fuck that. It was like really bad. And suddenly, from off in the distance, I see he's checking out somebody because I'm in an earshot, mind you. Like, I'm literally watching this guy, and I'm muttering under my breath like things, right? And and he's telling whoever he's on the phone with, he's like, "Oh, look at this piece of ass, da da da, da, I'm gonna mac that, or blah blah blah." And all of a sudden, I see like this blonde hair going off in the wind, and I'm like, "Oh, there's a girl coming. That's who he's talking about." And lo and behold, it's a friend of mine, a neighbor. So I'm sitting there and I'm like getting even more frustrated because now not only is he doing all of this, he's also talking about my friend derogatorily and like saying that he's gonna hit that and this and that. And meanwhile, I'm just like, no. So when she finally approached the tennis court to come see me, she steps in and she sees this like asinine man, boy, whatever he may be qualified as, in the park. And she's like, "Oh, what's this all about?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, it's been bothering me for time." And then he keeps staring at her and like staring her up and down, that I just literally was like, "Yo, like, you want to check her out? You want to keep looking at her?" Like, I started having an altercation with this man. And it got brutal. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like, he was throwing, "Oh, you're this, you're that, bada bing, bada bang, bada boom," and I was throwing back just as good, if not better, whatever. Because it was really, I was just saying like, "Oh, of all the places, like, you could move out of this baby park instead of, there's a whole huge park. Like, you don't have to sit in here and scare away family and whatever." So he's telling me off, and my friend Danielle is like just standing there, and I'm just like letting this guy have it. And it's a side of me that I'm not okay. I guess it's something like I surprised because it's like I grew up the way I grew up, and a lot of the people around me did not grow up the way I grew up. So I can seem very confrontational, etc., when I don't like something. And it's a side of me I don't like. I mean, okay, I'm just going to be bluntly honest, and this is why I have to explain this. Like, there is a side of both of us, like all of us, right? That we get a sense, like, I was feeling good when I was telling this person where to go, because there is this part inside of me that it's like injustices like infuriate me to the nth degree, and I think it's bottled up in anger inside of myself, because I get angry when people litter. I get angry when people just dismiss the world and treat it like it's garbage can. I get angry when people just are doing asinine things, like I just said, just like disregarding the whole world, disregarding that this is a park for children, like those like unhumane or inhumane challenges that I see in my day-to-day life really really get to me. And it's like, as much as I can try to bring forth like the side of, goodness, etc., I do always still battle this side of myself that when they see injustices gets very like rah about. And I try so hard to tame that side of me, like so hard. I feel like in this world that we're trying to like develop this balance, it's like, how do we do it? So I was asking God. I came home. I'm not gonna lie. Like, not only there's more to this story. Not only did we have that altercation, and then my friend was like, "Oh, let's move into the middle of the park." And I was like, okay. And I was debating if I should call the cops too, because it was like, this guy, like, obviously, if he doesn't leave, like, somebody's going to have to remove him because he's just a stain. It's like midday. Like, this has just happened, maybe like 10 a.m., 11 a.m. This guy's already, toasted in the park, not just from smoking, but drinking too. So somebody was going to have to remove him, obviously. But she brings me to the middle of the park. And then I end up going to the end of the park so I can like dump my dogs, whatever. And this guy circles on his bike and he comes in and provokes me once more. But again, I'm just like, I'm not scared of you. You know what I mean? I'm like, I'm here every day. I'm like, I'll shame you every day. That's what I said to him. I'm like, you can even know my name. And when I told him my name, he knew who I was, and he was like, "Oh, he's like, you're the one who used to run the kitchen over at Hawaii." And I was like, "Yeah." And he was like, "Oh, I'm the owner's nephew." And you have to understand that I have not seen this person in 7 years, roughly 6 7 years. And when I met him, like, I was running a kitchen, and when I met him, he was like maybe 24, 25. And mind you, I was like maybe 32, 33. Okay. Um, and he was like a young, bright, fresh faced, young individual, very sweet, very kind. And literally, what I was standing in front of was 100 pounds more straggly. Like, I mean, like, the guy just had a hat so his mat hair didn't like, show through. He was greasy. He had his pants hanging, like he didn't even have his like belt or anything to like hold up. So he looked very raggedy and very like he had like pox, like as if he had been doing some stuff in his day. And drinking and smoking, obviously, as maybe a 30 something year old now in the middle of the day. I just felt like I was being shown like a mirror in a sense, because it was just like, I know this person, and I just spent, just the last 10 minutes telling someone off that I know or I have met in my life. And then that wasn't the end of the experience that really got me. What got me was that, like, all I was thinking when I was telling this person off was like, this is the world. This is the world that, like, I battle to understand all the time, because it's like we're given this gift of life, and like I see people shitting on the world. I see people shitting on their opportunities. See people shitting on people every day, and it breaks my heart, because I'm just like, why does the world have to be this way? I say that to myself all the time. And I think in a way, like, what I just experienced was actually showing me full circle, like, why. Because I started debating to myself. I was like, is the game rigged, or like, is the kilter correct? That's what I think to myself. Like, this like good, light, bad, dark thing, is it kiltered in a way that we're going to lose more persons to, the fast and the quick money, or the fast, like, I'm trying to say, like, this guy in 6 years looked like a totally different person. And obviously they were taken away by, the dark side, like, drinking, drugs, girls, rock and roll, whatever the case may be. So I started thinking to myself, I was like, you know what, maybe not that this is a game, but like in the sense of like what creation and the development of duality, I've always been like struggling with that, because I always felt like one overseeded more the other. Like good always wins. I understand that. But I'm saying in the world that I see like the negatives that are there, a lot of them are not, they're all taken by like, drinking, drugs, like illnesses more so than anything else. And it just makes me think, like, in a way, like the way the negative works is that things are fast or quick. So I was like, oh, it's kind of like when you're dealing with the light, it's like things are gradual but they're stable. So it's like the way someone moves and shifts into the light is a totally different feeling and sensation than it is when you're dealing with the darkness, like as a maybe a non-enlightened human, right? Like let's say you're just not come on yet and you're just like following what paths come in front of you. And what I was trying to say is that in the sense that the negative kind of feels like it's fast, it's quick, it's attainable, it's easy, it's rapid moving. So it's like people gravitate more quickly, more rapidly, and easier to the dark side because of the way the allurance of that side works. Now, good will always win because, again, what I was thinking was like, oh, it's fast, so it gets people pulled away. And it brought me back to that guy, Matthew, that I saw in the park today, because it broke my heart that I was like, this guy is like obviously drinking, drugs, everything that everyone does, just like carried this guy away. And now he is the embodiment of what a negative person is characterized as. You know what I mean? Like, first I saw the doe-eyed happy boy 6 years ago, and now I'm seeing this decrepit and sad, angry older man with no direction. And this person followed obviously all these like quick, easy little things to get where they thought they would get. And anyone who ends up on the dark side and usually ends up in a pitiful situation. And that's what breaks my heart, because I keep asking out why. You know, will we lose more because of how quick and fast and accessible it is? So I got really mad at myself at how I handled that entire situation, because as a light worker, I am challenged by this, and I see my trip ups, and I get very, very, very maybe perhaps introspective of how I handle things too, what my dark side looks like. You know what I mean? Because I think when I saw that reflection, I was like, that's definitely my aha moment for understanding that, like, now maybe I have to rearrange the way I handle conflict or situations, because it was like some part of me does like telling off people. I'm not going to deny that, but at the same time I have to find a higher humility where that doesn't happen, because it's like watching it play out when it's somebody when it ends up being somebody you just kind of realize, like, there could have been a different way of going about it. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it was to show me something about myself, most definitely, because some part of me is ashamed that I'm happy when I tell people off, you know like maybe I feel gratified, and then I feel like I'm being put on and with my ego, and then I realize perhaps that I'm not on the right side about things, right? So there's some part of me that that challenges this. And then I realize that even though things are gratuitous and fast and quick with the dark side, the good can always intercede, right? And change minds and change thoughts about any situation. So I think to myself that me running into this person and me acting the way I did made me realize that even though I get instant gratification from telling, this person off, even though perhaps I might have had a reason to do it, I just didn't have to do it the way I did it. So I was ashamed of that, but that at the same time, I'm like, I don't like injustice. I just have to channel the way I handle injustice differently. I don't know if this is how you guys are working through your, I guess, and I guess the reason why I keep saying the dark side or the divine, whatever, it's like, this is shadow work too. For those that are like, oh, she's not giving, here's a real life situation, shadow work, because I have to fight through my anger. Balance is not like, I can't be 0 or 100, right? I can't do that either. Balance is here, but at the same time, if I get too happy on the other side when I'm telling someone off, then that means I'm kind of like more for self too, right? So I can achieve the same goal, which is to maybe get this guy out of the park, but perhaps do it in a more, and I'm not even going to say diplomatic because it's still being passive aggressive, but more through heart. But I felt like this was through heart, but at the same time, it's like I have to switch the way I think about it, because realistically, I have to figure out how to have the same outcome, have the person leave without causing all this conflict and whatnot. And that's where the crux lies about balance. So the thing is like, I have to fight through and figure out why I have so much anguish and anger towards injustice. And I have to work on that, because realistically, the person that comes out of me, it's like also not a good person. So I think that it's really hard sometimes to be in your higher sense of self all the time. It's almost like I cry out to God about it all the time, because I'm just like, I don't know how to always be okay. And the thing is like, the goal is to go higher. So no matter what, we have to process it. We have to figure out where our triggers are. We have to figure out where our fall downs are. We have to correct them as we go along the path. So yeah, I told this guy off. I ended up being somebody I knew, couldn't even recognize him. And then I think we both walked away kind of awkwardly, because we did know each other, or had met years ago. Because I think sometimes we don't realize that we're going to walk into a reflection situation. Like, he's telling me off, I'm telling them off. I'm thinking I'm doing it for the right. He thinks he's doing it for himself, but we're both doing it for each other. We're both doing it for ourselves. So we're both in the wrong. And then, at the same time, it's like a mastery of self. You have to see those things, challenge those things, figure out what is the next way of getting into that, and saying, hey, like, I'm just angry at the world for the downfalls sometimes that I see between the dark and the light. I challenge that idea of the dark and the light all the time. But at the same time, I know it's futile, because I realize that the balance is so correct. Like, when I was actually doing it back and forth, I was like, well, I'm like, because the darkness is very quick and fast in ministering, people tend to gravitate towards it a lot faster. And then, because the goodness that comes from the light side, it is long lasting and it's durable, and it's, the strength is abounding, but it's also gradual, and it's like a river that flows, that may get more rapid as time goes on. So it's not instantaneous gratification. And I don't know, am I allowed to say this? I guess what I kind of compared it to, and it, please don't, please take me like just as a metaphor, I was like, kind of like um the goodness is like smooth cocaine versus crack in a sense, because crack's like quick, fast addiction, quick, fast grab, quick, fast everything. So it's like the person's like constantly hungry for it, and it fizzles out quickly. And on the other side, it's like smooth and lasting and much cleaner and much better. Not that I do either or condone them. It's just I was trying to give a metaphoric example, because I feel like people that gravitate towards the dark tend to want things like money, fast cars, fast this, fast that. They don't want to work for things like that. So it's like kind of the same idea. So I'm sorry that I always take a dark turn sometimes with these things. But that's what I posed out. And then I realized I was like, since the light can always intercede, no matter how far gone a person is, the light can always intercede and do like spectacular, amazing things that can get any soul back on track at any time. So no matter how fast and furious the other side is, it's like putting a dog who's really ferocious on a little leash, and they're like, yep, 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 and they can keep going and going and going. But at some point, it's like you could just like knock out the dog. It's like, so it's like, in a way, it is fast and furious, but at the same time it will fizzle out as fast and furious as it came. And the light has that upper hand and power and sheer brilliance to it. So it's like it's obviously balanced right there and then. So it's like, oh, you can get away on your little leash and yap 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 all you want, but the minute the master comes, it's like, you're out of here, doggy. It's like, so it's such a different, and I'm trying to explain this as the observer, because it's like, not to say nothing, but as the observer, as the one who's like probably seeing duality in a very, very dense way, as the being that I am. And I try to express this as much as I can, because it's like, I want whoever is watching me or whoever is testing me or whatever to understand that, like, this is the perception of the observer within time. Like, this is how it feels. Like, it feels like when I was telling that person off, oh, it felt good. You better believe it felt good. And if it was like empowering and like all these like, egoic things that we always get challenged with all the time, and have to, sequester in our mind too, because it's like that's the side that you can get tricked with, you could get pulled away with. So it's like I try to find this balance of like, what side of that or how much of that is okay. Like, do I have to completely wash that out? Do I have to not have that, bravado? Do I have to get rid of the bravado? Do I have to get rid of these things that I feel are so innate in my soul to be? It's like, even though I'm not that person, but that side of me comes out, and I feel really at home in that in that way of being, if I could put it that way. Like, like when somebody's telling me off, like, I can take someone telling me off like bread and butter. Like, when I was growing up, things were very volatile like that every day. Every day I would have altercations like that 3 or 4 times a day, because that's just the way things were. So it's like I'm kind of at home in that way of being. So it's like I try to balance myself, but at the same time, I'm just like, I know that that's self gratification. I know that that is of the other persuasion. So it's like, if I'm trying to force through and have a full light body, I have to eradicate those lower ended egoic um parts of myself. But I don't even know if that's true too. Like, I'm just sharing this out because it's like I feel like we have to do our best to balance, but I'm like, what does that mean sometimes? Does that mean that you have none of it, some of it, part of it, bit of it, control of it? Because I don't think I have control of it. When I go off, I go off. I mean, I have restraint, like I can pull myself back if I have to, but at the same time, it's like I ponder this. So when I was having these debates in my head, when I came home, I was beside myself. I was, kind of like in a mess about the whole thing. And it got me thinking, and it put me in a place of understanding, like, no matter what, duality is completely balanced. So, and that's kind of what I wanted to show. We have to pick apart our psyche sometimes to see what things are self-gratifying and which ones, are the proverbial pat on the back type of scenarios. And we have to really say, like, okay, am I doing this for everyone else, or am I doing it just for me? And when you catch yourself, especially when I just got the big lightning strike, like right there, I was being put on the testing chopping block by our father today, because when I found out that it was somebody I knew, I don't know, this sadness washed over me. And I realized that maybe I wasn't in the right place. You know, some part of me felt like, oh, it's okay to do this when it's not somebody that just seems like they're, slumming it in the little kid park. But once I could put a face and all that, some part of me humanized, and I was like, yeah, that's the point of this, you know, to reach out, to help, not to hurt. And that's the battle that I'm going through all the time, because I kind of felt like I did wrong. Standing up regardless, I should have done better. So if you guys are all on this same tip, please know that I'm here with you. But I like to show how reflections and duality work. And come on, just to say, like, oh, are you going through this too? So I don't know what this was, but I think this is definitely a lesson on what it means and how ego can get the best of us at any time. And always watch out for ego. And never does go away fully. It'll find and morph and change into the depths of your like, your sense of self. Like, I wonder if enlightenment means to just give up your sense of self completely to the all. I'm imagining that that's what that is. But yeah, I just experienced that, so I thought I'd share. Have a good one, guys. Love you. I don't know what to make of this or what to call this, but an epiphany moment for me, so I thought I'd share it. Thanks, guys. Bye.